we'll go ahead and start, guys. I was hoping a couple more people would join, but I think we're good. We've got, what, 16 or 17 of us here, so it's pretty fantastic. Let's go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Dave, if I could talk you into putting that up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, guys. All right. Do I happen to have any volunteers for an invocation or a motivational phrase today? Not required. I can provide one, but
I have one if you like.
That'd be great. Thanks.
There are two ways of spreading light: to be the candle or the mirror that reflects it. Edith Wharton.
Oh. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, we've got a couple of guests today. Andrew, thanks for being with us. Welcome. Let's see. Steve, good to have you. Thanks for joining us.
You bet.
Let's see. I see Christy Anderson has her photograph up there of maybe her family there. Welcome, Christy. Thanks for being with us today. Let's see. Okay, I think that's, and Linda's here with us. Thank you, Linda Walker, for being with us.
Hello.
All right. Let's see, everybody else. Okay, let's go ahead and do announcements. Anybody want to start? Earl, go ahead.
Just remind everybody about the food drive. It will be collecting on December the 4th. The newest information would be that if you need an additional bag, you can call me as always, but they are also now placed down at the Chamber of Commerce building in the vestibule there as you just go in the door, the entryway. They will be on the left-hand side. There's 10 bags there, so if you need an additional bag or several, you can go down there, or like I said, you can always give me a call. And we'd like to collect 700 pounds. That's our goal again this collection cycle. Last time we were a little bit short, so we'll see if we can't make it up this time.
Awesome. Let's see, any other announcements? The Chamber has their golf tournament this Friday. They're still looking for a couple more teams. So if any of you guys want to get one last round in before the weather totally changes, there's still an opportunity to do that. Let's see. Michelle, go ahead.
You just reminded me, I'll just let everyone know again that the Rimrock Trails ribbon cutting is on tomorrow, Thursday from 4 to 6. We'd love to have you down there. It's at 215 Southwest 7th Street. And it's going to be a great time. We have some food from the Pump House and some wine and beer and a mocktail from the Twisted Peach. So come on down and celebrate with us.
Thanks, Michelle. I'll be there.
Hey.
All right. Any other announcements?
I'll make a combination announcement and for on the this Friday at 4 o'clock. They are having a dedication of their new Head Start, one of the Head Start classroom facilities are naming it after me. So I am obviously very proud and amazed that they're doing this. And as I say, it's a dedication and people are welcome. And I would love to have members of the Kiwanis come if they can. It's 4 o'clock and for people who know, it's the old Redmond bus barn. It's down close to the city hall and such. I don't know the exact address of it, but I would love to have members of the Kiwanis Club show up.
That's cool, Linda. Congratulations.
What was that again? Or maybe we could get it in an email to us.
Yeah, I can get something out to you. Yes.
Awesome. All right, let's see. Another one is, I'll kind of say it, C's Candy's coming up. We're starting to plan for that. I know Hannah's been working extremely hard trying to find us a location to operate out of. So that's looking good. But as always, start thinking about volunteering. Once we know where it's at and what shifts will be available, we're going to start really hounding you guys. So start getting that on your radar. If there's no other announcements, I wanted to move into shout outs, and I kind of touched on this already. My shout out was really for Hannah this week. I know we've been in communications via email, and she is working really, really hard to find us a location to operate out of. So I wanted to give her a...
Not really. It's not
really?
No, not really.
Well, you are working on it, and that deserves a round of applause. So I wanted to just kind of give you one of those, and thank you for continually doing that. And it's a big deal. So
for some people, the accomplishments come easily.
There you go. Right, Carl. Amber, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Don, you too. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Anybody else want to give a shout out to another member? Not required, but just if someone you've been paying attention to is doing an amazing job, we'd love to hear about it.
I'd like to give a shout out.
Yeah, please.
So my shout out is for Michelle. She is putting on the ribbon cutting for Rimrock, and she is doing an amazing job getting sponsors, making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, holding everyone accountable, and just like thinking of every little detail. And she just puts so much thought and time behind it. And I just appreciate that and wanted everyone to know how hard she's working. And hopefully people will be able to come out tomorrow and support her efforts and support the treatment center.
Yes. Thanks, Michelle. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move into Happy Dollars. I'll go. Oh, Alan, go ahead.
Well, I'll put in 20 Happy Dollars. I read the Kiwanis newsletter and found out that I was named Kiwanian of the Year. And I want to say thank you very much. But I also want to say that it was a club project. If it wasn't for Earl, John, and Dave stepping up to be on the child care board, and then all the rest of you that helped us with the move and the fix up of the building, we wouldn't be where we are today with supporting child care and early learning, which is really our mission. So thank you for the honor, and thank you for the club for the support.
Yeah, thank you for doing what you do. It's well deserved. So thank you very much. Okay, so John's not here, so I'm tracking Happy Dollars today. So Alan, you did say 20? Thank you.
And I'm putting $5 on my announcement.
Linda, sorry, you broke up there. How much did you say?
5.
Perfect. Thank you. Carl, go ahead.
So Ginger and I are $5 happy. We were able to get our Moderna boosters yesterday. We went to Prineville to accomplish it, but no, it's a feeling of relief.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Mike, go ahead.
I'll go for $5. I've got a new video behind me, which is one that I shot while we were diving in Whakarava, French Polynesia last month. We were down 92 feet with these sharks swimming all around us.
Yeah.
Anyway, then we went over to the valley this last weekend and watched our granddaughter run cross country again on Friday. They had a big race. The coach made her run JV because there were about 4 of them that have been on varsity part of the year. And so he wanted them to go head to head to see who got to run in the district meet next week. And She won the JV race and actually placed 6th if she would have been running varsity, because they turned around and ran them all in the same race. So she was right up near the front. There were 2 just barely ahead of her. Anyway, and then my son-in-law Matt and I went crabbing on Saturday morning and limited out with 24. And then the Beaver Victory Saturday night was fantastic to watch. We tailgated and had a super time.
That's awesome.
Boy, what a weekend.
That was a great way to spend some time. All right. Let's see. Any other happy dollars today? John Bruce.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, $5 worth of happiness this week, I guess. First of all, for an old guy going to the doctor for his semi-annual physical, they found no new issues. That's great news. Makes you smile. Secondly, I just returned from a 3-mile walk through the canyon, and the photo behind me was a picture that was taken actually 2 days ago. Wow. Beautiful walk, beautiful time of year. I guess the next one is that I'm so happy to see that the RLCC Child Care Center is really prospering. Now, I shouldn't say prospering. More and more kids showing up into the waiting list. That's just excellent to have that happen. And I guess the final thing is I get to attend my first Key Club meeting at Ridgeview this week, and I'm pretty excited about that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And thank you so much. I should say this, another attaboy. John stepped up and decided he is going to continue the relationship with Ridgeview as our Key Club liaison. So that's huge. Thank you, John. Appreciate that very much.
You're welcome.
Hannah, I saw your hand.
It's me and Truman both, really.
Yes.
We wanted to say a happy dollar for Andrew. It's for $7 because I owe 8 and that'll make 15. And I'm planning on sending out the link to our website so members of the Community Presbyterian Church in our social issues group can see Andrew talk, because we're real interested in the Shepherd's House and really glad that you're heading it up. We miss you.
Hannah, can I ask, you said how much?
Oh, I'll put in 7 today. I already owe 8.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure we got that right. Okay. So I've got a couple happy dollars. I've got one for Amber Wilson. She contacted me a few days back and coordinated a Zoom call with Ray Austin, who's the president of the Prineville Club. And we were talking about a potential new fundraiser for our club. So more to come on that, but I wanted to give Amber a happy dollar on that one because, her taking the initiative to, in her already busy schedule, to take on something more potentially is huge. So thank you, Amber. I have a sad dollar actually for Amber's Red Sox. We lost, and that was sad, disappointing, but we're hoping that the Braves can beat up those Astros. So go Braves. And then my last happy dollar is just the fact that some of you know, we had a bathroom flood in our home, and it went through the ceiling and came down and destroyed 2 of our bathrooms, 1 broken pipe. And they're finally moving forward with getting things renovated and repaired after 2 long months. So that's a lot of happy dollars. I haven't decided how many, but several. Amber, go ahead.
Okay, so I have a few happy dollars. I'm going to donate 10. And then one, I'm excited. Our daughter texted today and said that she is the new head softball coach for her middle school that she's teaching at down in Northern California. So proud to see that she is getting involved. She was part of Key Club at Ridgeview when she was there. So super proud of her. And then happy to see Andrew on the call here, excited to hear what he has to talk about. And then excited to the owl I ordered last week and it said it shipped today. So I'm super excited. I can't wait for it to get here and test it out and see if it's something that's going to work good for hybrid meetings with the group.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Any more happy dollars today before we move on? Okay. Let's jump right into the joke of the day. I know that's really why you guys attend this thing. So, okay. So why did the Scarecrow win an award? Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
He was outstanding in his field.
Dave, were you Googling these? You've gotten them right like 3 weeks in a row. That's correct, because he was outstanding in his field. Excellent. Well, thank you. Andrew, we set the bar really high for you. So the floor is yours. Tell us about the Shepherd's House. Thank you.
Yeah, that's hard to beat right there. Well, in a minute, I'll turn on. I have a presentation to share, but really, this can work well as a conversation. Also, I just want to do a little introduction. I know many of you, and for those of you who maybe even are from out of town, I know many of these people because I used to be their pastor at the Presbyterian Church here, and I left that role in August. I took the month of September off, which I highly recommend anybody to take the month of September off and travel to the Grand Tetons. I got to go there and see the colors in full swing. It was amazing. So then I've been in my new role with Shepherd's House now for almost a month, and my title is the Redmond City Director, and I am directing a program that does not yet exist in an empty building with a staff that is not yet hired. But I'm excited to tell you about what our plans are for Shepherd's House in the year ahead, really. Most of what I'll be sharing are plans that we will carry into 2022. And of course, all of that will depend on fundraising and construction timelines and things that usually take longer than you hope. So we're going to approach it with a lot of patience and community partnership. I love Kiwanis' vision to really support young kids and childcare. I'm great to hear Alan's update that the childcare center is moving forward. That is not exactly what Shepherd's House is about. I'm going to introduce you to what we do as a whole. We are an agency that serves the unhoused or the homeless population in Central Oregon. And I'm going to share more. We've been based in Bend for 15 years, and we're preparing to establish ourselves permanently in Redmond. So what I'll do is I'll talk. If you have a question while I'm talking, maybe drop it in the chat. And if I can see it, I'll kind of answer it as I go. And if not, since I'm sharing a presentation, I can't see hands, or I can't see all of your hands at least. So we'll do a Q&A at the end. And I will try not to go too long. Michelle said I had 20 or 25 minutes. I don't think I'll talk for that long. I'll keep an eye on the clock. I was really hoping to be in person with you all because I consider many of you friends. In addition to the church connection, Amber was very instrumental in us moving to Redmond exactly 4 years ago. 4 years ago tomorrow, we closed on our Redmond house. So thank you, Amber. I don't think we've ever met in person yet, just lots of emails and phone calls and now a Zoom meeting. All right, well, I'm going to share my screen and we'll dive into some of what Shepherd's House is doing. All right. If you're having trouble seeing at any point in time, I can see a few of you, but maybe again, just a chat or I'll tell you right now, I can see Josh's and Dave's faces. So flag me down if something's not working on the technology as I'm going. So Shepherd's House, our motto is grace changes everything. We are a Christian organization. And what I'll share is that when we provide emergency services to people in need, that's overnight shelter and food, we really provide that to absolutely anyone with no boundaries on that, whatever. We're just here to serve people in need. The Christian faith aspect of our programming really comes into play when people connect with us long-term and their hope is to get off the streets into another lifestyle. We really incorporate our Christian faith heavily into that long-term part of our program. And I'll share more about those two different angles of what we do. But I want to start with why we do what we do as Shepherd's House. We really don't see people on the streets and think that's a problem to be solved. We believe people living outside or people living on the streets are neighbors to be loved. And we would really like to invite the whole Redmond community and the Bend community to see our friends on the street in the same way. And when we invite people into our space for a meal or overnight shelter, our goal is to create a safe and healing environment where people can really have a safe relationship and begin to experience transformation that we believe happens from the inside out. At Shepherd's House, we do feed and we do shelter. It's a lot of what we do, but our deeper aim is to walk alongside people and understand where those deep pains come from in their life. Our assumption when we see somebody living on the street, quite possibly they are having addiction challenges, mental health challenges, economic challenges. but we also assume there's another deep pain or wound way back in their life, maybe a childhood trauma, an adolescent trauma. Michelle could tell you that many of the youth they're helping at Rimrock Trails, they're doing things now so that they can adapt later in life. And many people living on the streets in Central Oregon or anywhere are probably have unresolved and unhealed trauma from earlier in their life. So we try to create an environment of grace where our goal is not to just change behavior, but help change somebody's story, how they see their history and how they see a more hopeful future in their own lives. What is unique about us and how we do what we do? We really value the dignity and every human life we see on the streets or that walks in our doors. And we believe that's true for our staff, our volunteers, and our homeless neighbors who come in to be served. We try to create one cohesive community of respect and mutuality. Like I said, our motto is that grace changes everything. And so we love to give away meals and overnight shelter without conditions. We are a low barrier shelter, which means for people seeking overnight shelter in Bend and this winter in Redmond, they can access it even if they have recently used drugs or consumed alcohol, as long as they're not too disruptive on our property. And obviously we don't want to disrupt or make unsafe the other people sleeping there, but we do not require any testing or like threshold to get in our doors. We lead with relationships. We believe people make choices to change their life and improve themselves when they're in a safe and secure environment. So that's why it's so important to us to just set up a facility in Redmond to begin feeding and sheltering on a daily basis. We also believe that every single person is capable of positive change and has a chance at hope. And I really think that not just when we're talking about our neighbors on the streets, but when volunteers come in the door, we hope that a year from now, when you begin volunteering with us, that your heart and life will be changed by partnering with us. That you're not just here to change other people, but that you're open to being changed. Shepherd's House was founded 15 years ago in Bend. Since then, it has grown in about every direction. We do a lot more emergency services, which is food and shelter now than we did in years past. And we have really grown that to meet the need. We're not an organization that thinks we want to grow to X, Y, or Z size. We're simply an organization that says there's a greater need on our streets, so we're going to increase our capacity to serve. We have a long-term men's transformation program that I'll speak to a bit more in a minute. And I don't know exactly when, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, we opened a Women and Children's Center that's on the east side of Bend. Many of you might recognize our flagship building, which is on Division Street, right off the Revere exit in Bend. We don't put a sign on our Women and Children's Center. We don't publicize the address because most of those people are in vulnerable situations. Shepherd's House began providing emergency winter shelter in Redmond in 2014. That has happened for 7 winters now. We're going into our 8th, and that's in a partnership with local churches where folks are sheltered, and 3 churches partner to cover 4 months from November 15th to March 15th. There are ways for you as individuals and churches or civic groups or business groups to volunteer with that this winter. The best way is to help provide a dinner meal for our guests or a takeaway lunch or breakfast in the morning. And that website really quickly, I can drop it in the chat later, is redmondshelterfood.org. And we encourage folks in Redmond to volunteer to drop off meals there this winter. That begins at Highland Baptist on November 15th. Mountain View Church is our other partner in Redmond Christian Church in downtown. And then for about 5 years now, since we began the winter shelter here in Redmond, the organization has been talking about how do we actually begin establishing a permanent facility here. I moved to town 4 years ago. I met some of the Shepherd's House staff about the same time. And I've been loosely in those conversations, never imagining that I would come on staff with them, but just knowing that it was part of their dream to root themselves here. And their executive director was pretty persuasive this year in inviting me to step into this new role to build something new for Redmond. We've always been waiting to just find the right facility in the right location. Before we jump into more specifics on what we'll be doing in Redmond, I just want to give you a picture of what we're doing in Bend so you can imagine what it might look like in Redmond. Currently, we are providing emergency overnight shelter in partnership with the city of Bend. In other words, the city of Bend City Council has decided this is a really high priority for them to provide more services. They are funding this emergency overnight shelter, but Shepherd's House is contracted, and all the staff working it are our staff. We are seeing 80 plus guests this week. We were in the 70s consistently through the fall. And when that cold rain hit last weekend, we jumped above 80 and we've stayed there since for the last 4 nights. We have had 6 overnight monitors, and now we're looking to add, because we try to keep a certain ratio between guests and monitors. And those guests receive a dinner, a hot dinner, and a takeaway breakfast or lunch when they leave there. The City of Bend and Shepherd's House are partnering to build a permanent kitchen and shower facility, or at least that conversation's underway. It's not underway yet, but the conversation's happening. That shelter is on 2nd Street near the Bi-Mart in Bend, if people are trying to locate where that is. And then a new program we started just a year ago this October is the Shepherd's House Aid and Relief Effort, SHARE, great acronym. And that actually came in the early month of the pandemic. Not only did our neighbors on the street need help, we just realized people who lost their hourly jobs immediately before a lot of the financial help from the federal government kicked in. Folks were just hungry and in need of food. And something amazing happened, which is the residents in the long-term program at Shepherd's House partnered with local grocery stores to just take in a lot of food and give out a lot of food. And Shepherd's House just began catching a vision for how can we help everybody in need. We have purchased a transit van that we now use that's always packed with supplies, and we are visiting people in all the camps in town and out of town around Bend. That is an effort. We only have one van and one staff dedicated to that in Bend now, but we hope to bring a version of that SHARE effort to Redmond probably after we get the facility up and running. So that's maybe a full 18 months away or more, but we hope to do that in Redmond. In addition, in Bend, we have a men's recovery program that is housed in the Division Street building. There are 22 men there currently. We typically house 25 to 30. We kept our census a little lower during COVID because we have a big safety part of our intake program. The Women and Children's Center houses 9 women and children. Both of those are phased residential programs. There's 6 phases from detox back to reintegration with full-time work and living more independently. And most of our residents are in that program between 18 and 24 months. That is a really long-term recovery program for addiction and homelessness, and that we just think that's the model that works best for folks on the street. What's really exciting in the last few years is we've had donors step forward in Bend, and through a generous real estate transactions they've made available for people who've graduated from the men's recovery program to live in community houses. We've learned that folks who've lived on the street and struggle with addiction, the next best step for them might not be an apartment by themselves with a refrigerator and a paycheck and cable TV. What might be better for them is actually staying in community where they have accountability with their sobriety, where they have more access to mental health and spirituality services to kind of keep them moving forward and keep working the program even when they move out of our house. We have 2 of those houses now where graduates live together. It's a really exciting next step. And I would say we dream of establishing some of those in Redmond, but that's several more years away also. And who will Shepherd's House serve in Redmond? So I'm probably not sharing anything new with you right now by saying that homelessness has increased in Redmond. We see it wherever we drive. Someone just mentioned the other day that I just saw tents next to the hospital when you're driving on 97, and that is really new in the last year. The point in time count is a one-night count that happens every January. And in 2019, local organizations counted 89 people sleeping outside or in a shelter. That's how the homeless population is counted in January. In 2021, that was 189. I think context is important. So in the entire Central Oregon 3-county region, we're over 1,000 in the 2021 point in time count. Our shelter staff really don't think that homeless people consider themselves like the residents of Bend or Redmond. They really move back and forth because they might need to access a service in either Bend or Redmond, or they come out of a hospital in either Bend or Redmond, or they have a friend where they might spend a few nights and then they go back on the streets. Or they might even have a job in one place or another, but they might move back and forth for other reasons. When we look ahead to what we'll be doing in this building where I'm at right now, we plan on providing meals to anyone who is hungry and in need, and our overnight shelter will be low barrier, as I talked about, be accessible to anyone. I'm going to save this for our question and answer session, but I'd love to share a little bit about what Bethlehem Inn is doing here, unless you've already gotten a presentation from them, but a lot of people, I'm seeing a no from Josh, that's good. So I'll clarify the difference between what we do and what Bethlehem Inn does, but I'll share that later in the question and answer session. We are seeing growth, obviously, doubling in Redmond and up 13% regionally. All right, so specifically, what is Shepherd's House plan in Redmond? So this is the building where I'm speaking to you right now. This is the Grace Gate Church building. For those of you who've lived in Redmond for more than 7 years, you probably knew it as Coyote Grill. or Coyote Ranch Grill or something like that. That was before my time. But we always hear stories about it. So on the right side of the picture on your screen is the old restaurant. On the left side was just some storefronts. And I'll be sharing about what we plan on doing there. Our neighbors are the Verizon building, which is actually currently not open, Cindy's Chinese and Mazatlan. And we plan on extending almost everything we're doing outreach and emergency services wise from Bend to Redmond. So our first phase in this building will be to renovate the kitchen. So when the restaurant moved out of here and Grace Gate Church moved in, a lot of the old kitchen equipment was sold off, understandably so. So we are looking to work towards a finalized design of our kitchen and purchase some new machines, which are very expensive industrial kitchen machines. We have begun a fundraising campaign with the money we've already gathered. That will be our first goal, is to renovate the kitchen and begin serving meals, because even before we can shelter people overnight or even keep them in here all day, we can start handing out food, even kind of in a takeaway model. The second phase of our plan will be to renovate the entire building and to begin overnight shelter, and that's more on the north end of the building. We also are carving out a space of this building, or potentially adding on a small bit to make room for some of the men who are in the second half of our recovery program. When they begin working, many of them desire to work in our shelter programs to provide space and relationship with people who are coming off the streets, because they want to turn around and serve people who they were just in community with those people. That's a really good avenue for positive change in people's lives. And then when we talk about a longer term future vision, we have a dream with Shepherd's House of really just providing as many services as there are in need here for really the poorest neighbors who live in Redmond. So that could be a daytime, it's a warming center in the winter, it's a cooling center in the summer. There could be a vocational and career direction there. It could be a spot where Deschutes County Mental Health is able to connect with some clients who are otherwise on the street, but it's a really safe, warm space for that to happen. Any kind of those things. We dream of what else could be possible on this property. We are in process towards purchasing this property outright, which will allow us to dream longer term about a master plan for this whole property here. This is an early architectural drawing, so don't hold us to where these internal walls are, but it just gives you a bit of a picture. And I'm just gonna walk you from left to right, which is actually south to north in the building. So there's a kitchen we're talking about renovating. That storage room just above the kitchen will be a walk-in fridge or freezer, because we're talking about feeding a fair amount of people on a daily basis. Sleeping quarters, that'll be for the live-in staff. A common room, which will be a cafeteria. For several meals a day, we might just start serving one meal a day and then ramp up as we staff up and increase volunteer capacity. We're looking at enough volunteers long-term to maybe serve 21 meals a week, and that's a lot of volunteer power. We have restrooms in the building. Obviously, we'll be adding showers, both for overnight guests and for day guests. So we're aware that there are people who live on the streets who don't even desire to shelter with us, especially when the weather's good. But boy, do they love a warm shower. So we have a shower truck in Bend. And since we're starting a facility renovating from scratch here, we're looking to incorporate a lot of showers. It's a really important service to our neighbors on the street. And then if we look all the way to the right of that architectural drawing, and don't hold us to where these lines are, but that's what we'll do overnight shelter. And we are planning on sheltering men and women overnight. And we're trying to think of some creative ways to maybe carve out some smaller rooms that maybe could accommodate families. There are homeless families in Central Oregon. A lot of the time they might be living with a friend, like on a couch, or another family member. But when they're really vulnerable and they need to come find us, we want to have a safe place maybe to accommodate a single mom and a few kids, or a single dad and a few kids. So we're really trying to think ahead to all possible situations and to design the building accordingly. All right, and what else could be possible through this new center? I just want to share a bit of really my heart and Shepherd's House heart for how we do what we do. Because there's a lot of organizations that are serving folks in need in Central Oregon, although I think it's really important that there's going to be at least 2 and hopefully soon 3 new organizations doing that in Redmond, helping to serve this specific population. We would love for this building to be a community gathering space. What I mean by that is that when you come here to volunteer, that you would build relationship with our neighbors on the street. You might start recognizing them in the Fred Meyer parking lot, or at McDonald's or something, and you'll actually maybe even build a friendship. You might help that person, but they also might help you, and they might give you a new perspective on life, or especially life in Redmond. I think that if we are successful in that, it could break down a lot of barriers between different social groups in Redmond, both by volunteering alongside each other and across kind of those helpers and helped groups. We'd love to see that just integrated into one community. I talked about future ideas of what just this property could be used for job training or career development, more mental health services, legal services. A lot of our poorest neighbors, when they really have a need, sadly, they're often told you need to go to Bend to contact the service you need. And we are hopeful that our facility could provide more of those services here in Redmond. And then when we get to our question and answer session, just after one more slide, I'd love to hear more of your thoughts of what's possible or where are needs in Redmond that you think we could meet as an organization with this new facility. And finally, how can you play a role? And of course, we know that Kiwanis is just one of the great fundraisers and volunteer forces in Redmond, but I also know your focus is really on kids and youth. And like I said up front, we do serve some kids and minors, but that's not our focus. We're really focused on adults living on the street. But all of you as individuals, I know so many of you, you're all involved in 5 other things in Redmond or more. So please reach out to me if you would like to learn more or take a walking tour of the building I'm in right now. I just did one this morning with a local church. I did another one with the church last Friday, and they actually volunteered to help clean up this space. Or any other civic group or business group that you're a part of. We'd love to just build relationship and partner. There are ways to volunteer with Shepherd's House in Redmond, and that would really do with the Redmond Winter Shelter, November 15th to March 15th. And in a minute, I'll drop that website in the chat so you can see it. And then you can volunteer in Bend anytime. If you just hop on, it's shepherdshouseministries.org, our website. Across the top, there's a button that says volunteer, and you can just get connected. There are always chances to volunteer as an individual, as a family, as a small group, lots of ways to get connected. If you are interested, of course, we are accepting donations specifically to build out the Redmond facility. It is a really large fundraising project. We are only a fraction of the way going, really just getting the ball rolling. And you can send a check-in with that specific designation. We don't have a specific donate to Redmond button online, but if you were to donate online and follow up by emailing me, we could make sure it's designated for the right direction. And my email address and cell phone number are right there on your screen. So jot those down if you have interest. And then I'm going to stop sharing my screen in a minute just so we can interact more for some question and answer. All right. Now I get to see all your lovely faces again.
I have a couple of questions. Is Shepherd's House Ministries just a local group, or is it affiliated with a national group in any way?
Great question. We are local, really just based here, based in Bend for the last 15 years, and we've been active in Redmond for 8 years. Any national affiliation we have is really just with organizations who are serving homeless folks with a similar heart. So there are national organizations of really rescue missions, that they exist in Portland and Salem and Eugene, Medford, and here. So we are connected to all those similar rescue missions.
Oh, I opened that
one. Earl, go ahead.
As we've had other programs over the last several months, we've heard from, we've worked with St. Vincent's, the veterans, the Red Cross, all who have had similar type of programs. I'm just wondering if there is some kind of interconnection between all the groups that do some kind of joint planning, keep each other abreast, that there's that kind of a structure.
Absolutely, yes. That's a great question, Earl. So there is very closely, in both specific to Redmond, there's a group called the Redmond Service Providers, which is nonprofits as well as just other volunteer groups that are meeting the needs specifically of those who serve the homeless. And that group meets online once a month. And then across Deschutes County, there's a homeless leadership coalition that's then broken out into specific groups, even who do overnight shelter or who do other services, who do harm reduction, other things. So yeah, there's a lot of collaboration. And I'll take that question and launch actually to share into a bit of what else is coming into Redmond, because I always get questions about this. So usually when I tell people that Shepherd's House is opening a new facility here, we don't have our signs out yet. And it's because we're not ready to help people in need. If somebody came up to the door right now and asked for a meal, I wouldn't have anything to give them except my own lunch. So that's why we don't have signs in our building yet. It's because we're not ready to really help those people here. And I'm only in Redmond about 1 day a week right now. But on 5th Street, as you're going north out of downtown, there's the old Greenway Motel, and it is what is called a turnkey project by Bethlehem Inn. And Bethlehem Inn is really far underway with their construction. Wonderfully, they've received a lot of financial support from the county to do that. And Bethlehem Inn is a homeless shelter, but they are not low barrier like we are. So you can't just walk off the streets and get a bed at Bethlehem Inn. They actually work with an application process. They're looking for people who are ready to make a life transition from the streets back into employment and housing generally. They also require that folks are clean and sober. So not just that they're not using on site or on premise, but they haven't used. And so they actually require a drug test before folks move in. Bethlehem Inn generally works with folks up to a 6-month period, so a longer term shelter where they are setting goals for employment and saving and financial viability to then really be more self-sufficient longer. So to help you picture that, some of our overnight guests at the Redmond Winter Shelter or the Bend Shelter, they might come to us just to be warm and out of the cold or out of the heat in the summer, but a lot of them are actually not a lot. Some of them are committed and clean and sober and on their way into Bethlehem Inn. So sometimes people go from our overnight shelter into Bethlehem Inn. And their program is really focused on helping those people get back on their streets. So they'll be, again, I won't say a date, but I know they are working through their construction very quickly because they're hoping to shelter this winter at that building on 5th Street. Then you may have already also heard in the news about Oasis Village, which is a new organization in Redmond, and they are an outgrowth of a kind of a idea concept child out of Jericho Road, which has been active here for 15 or 16 years. In Oasis Village, their goal as an organization is to establish what their leader, Bob Hoeksema, calls a gated community. So they're they're basically 1-bedroom sheds, but they'll be 1-bedroom like mini houses with a shared bathhouse and a shared kitchen for folks. So they'd still be outside, but not sleeping under the stars. They'd have a roof over their heads, and they'd have some shared resources. It'd be a safe place for people to come to and to begin to access services and work through goals towards employment and housing on their own there as well. So other people have asked me, they've said, well, we all do work together. We all talk, we all chat regularly. And really, I think the need is so great in Central Oregon. As I said, it's really just one community of folks. Since they don't have a permanent address, they don't really consider themselves always local to Redmond or Bend. Some do. But I think even with all those organizations, there's plenty of need for all of them to be working here in Redmond. Alan.
Thank you for the presentation. When I was running for election and knocking on people's doors, everybody had a dog. And a lot of homeless people have dogs to stay warm at night. How do you handle dogs?
Great question. So with our overnight sheltering, we've, I don't know since when, but at least for as long as I've been around, we've made a practice of welcoming companion animals, although we only take dogs. We don't take other companion animals into shelter. And we really believe that's because not only to stay warm, but a lot of people really find their emotional safety with those companion animals. So in Bend, if you were to walk through the Bend shelter tonight, out of 80 guests, you'd probably see 10 animals, and they are kenneled, they're crated. But we have like Costco-sized bags of dog food. So that's one thing people can actually donate to that shelter is huge quantities of dog food. And there is a local organization called CAMP, which is Companion Animal Medical Providers. I think that basically is a nonprofit who helps be the veterinarian for companion animals for people living on the streets. So great question, Ellen.
Now, I saw that in your new facility, everything is either men or women. So you are not taking any families?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So we're in the design phase now. So one conversation we had yesterday was we'll definitely have a men's space, because when we shelter, we generally tend to see about 70 to 80% of the people coming in the doors are men. Instead of having a designated women's space, one thing we've decided, instead of maybe having 10 beds in one room for women, one thing we're considering is what if we had 3 small rooms, say with 4 beds each. And so maybe some could be used for women, some could be used for a single parent with kids. And sometimes we actually see married people who want to shelter together. And so we're trying to decide how to make it a safe sheltering environment for the most vulnerable guests, while also obviously, so in the Bend shelter right now, which is it's the old Opportunity Center thrift store in Bend. So it's kind of just a warehouse. Men and women are sheltering next to each other. They're 8 feet apart because of COVID guidelines and all that, but they are in the same building near each other. So there's really just not much privacy. So we're trying to think through the best use of space to maximize our capacity while also keeping people safe and just a little bit of privacy for those who need it. Hi, John Duff, you came on while I was talking.
Hey, Andrew. Actually, I got a question. So when you were at the church a few years back, we went to Oakland and San Francisco for a service for a youth mission, took the youth down there. And this this model that you're using here kind of sounds a lot similar to what they were doing down there. The food banks, the shelter, the drug treatment. We kind of saw little bits of all of it all over both cities. And this sounds very familiar to that model.
Yeah. So there's not only one way to do it. I think in every city you'd actually see some different approaches, but when we talk about providing multiple services on one site and doing it consistently, so our whatever meals we begin to serve, we'll try to open in a way that we can do it 7 days a week. It's because a lot of folks some folks living on the street are very together. A lot of them have cell phones. They can tell you what day of the week is. They have bank accounts that they can access via their cell phones and all that. But we also have folks who really, if they just know they can get lunch and they don't know what day of the week it is. So we want to provide consistency and shelter. So even one of the challenges with our winter shelter that moved between 3 different churches is we have to inform our guests regularly enough that they know that, oh, we're going to be at a different address in a week or a month. So we're really excited to have one place where we can provide food, shelter, and other supportive services in one place so people know where to go and they're not confused or wondering what day of the week is what.
I don't know if this will get there, but one thing that really impressed me about, and I can't remember, it's Alameda County, but I can't remember the name of the facility where they were staying. It was basically a 1-year program where people could get off the streets, get away from the drugs, but they kind of had to work to stay there. And a lot of them ended up getting, culinary degrees and worked in the kitchen, and that kitchen fed, correct me if I'm wrong, Michelle, it was over 1,000 people a day in that one kitchen. But it was a phenomenal service to the community. It more than paid for itself in the social services it provided and the food it provided. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah. So we definitely, what we see is a lot of folks who go through our program, which is 18 to 24 months, and they generally start working in the second half of that. They do fill a lot of hourly jobs in Bend and then hopefully in the future in Redmond. A lot of them also come back to work with us. So they might work in our kitchen, they might work in our shelter. One of our visions for having a campus in Redmond, and this is several years away, but we'd be able to do some vocational training, and food is one of those areas because we have an industrial kitchen that we'll be using nonstop. We think that's one area we could train people to really support the restaurants locally.
That'd be great. Good luck to you, Andrew.
Thank you. Yeah, Ellen.
Just to go off of John's remarks and yours, COCC has a community learning system. Through that system, there could be some vocational classes set up that focus on maybe outreach to your ministry. So we should think about that and strategize and talk.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah. You might not know. So my wife is a continuing education instructor at COCC. So we'll,
oh, great.
We'll be in the loop.
Okay. Well, tell her I want to help. That is really
a good way to think about it.
Thanks.
Yeah. No. And so for example, Redmond or the Shepherd's House in Bend, they provide a Thanksgiving meal usually for hundreds of people. And we're inviting culinary staff from the COCC Culinary Institute to partner and take part in that. So that definitely, I think that partnership is just beginning, Ellen, but I love your idea of seeing that grow.
Yeah.
Michelle.
you know, we lost Balula's place recently as a nonprofit. So we don't have a lot of places for teenagers now to sleep overnight in shelter. That, as you're talking about maybe future needs or whatnot, that really, especially for Redmond, we don't have anything now. Whereas I think Bend has the loft or a couple other places. So anyway, that might be a need that you could fill in future for all those the poor kiddos that are doing the couch surfing and are left, you know, kicked out of their homes and those kinds of things. So.
Yeah, that's a huge need, and it is really a shame that Balula's place closed here in Redmond. And I am familiar with the loft. Ben Bolton actually did a great article about the loft just a week or two ago. It was really great to read about a homeless youth who's now at Southern Oregon. And I think we would love to imagine what's possible when we think long term, whether that's another organization like joining our space because that works out. When we talk about sheltering families or unaccompanied minors, that's people under 18 but who come in without their parents, because we're a low barrier shelter, we sometimes, not every night, but we might be sheltering people who are on a sexual offender registry. So believe it or not, these are things that our shelter staff are thinking through on a regular basis. Is like, oh, if we have this person here, can we safely provide a space for this person, you know, a minor? And so let me just say, while we hope to serve as many people who need help, and we hardly ever turn somebody away, there's just not enough resources to meet those needs. But that, I think, Michelle, that just makes the point that hopefully we can dream of more opportunities in Redmond long term. Yeah, and homeless youth is one of those. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands. Oh, go ahead, Earl.
Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate the program.
All right, it's my pleasure. I did drop my email address and cell phone number and the website if you're interested in volunteering in the winter to provide meals. That's November 15th to March 15th. All the information about location and timing is on that website that I dropped in the chat.
Awesome. Andrew, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
We appreciate hearing about it and want to help if we can. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, well, if there's no other questions, we'll part ways. We'll see y'all next week.
Hey guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.